Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Russ LeBlanc, your personal NEC consultant and code experts. Thank you for joining me. In this video, I'm going to be explaining branch circuit load calculations for sign and outline lighting system outlets. Okay, if you want to grab your code book, your 2023 code book, we can dive right in. And we want to focus on section 220.14F. Let's see what that says. All right, 220.14F says this: sign and outline lighting outlets are calculated at 1200 volt amps minimum for each required branch circuit as specified in 600.5A. Okay, let's see what's required in 600.5A. Let's go there. 600.5A says this: each commercial building and each commercial occupancy accessible to pedestrians must have a sign or outline lighting outlet at each entrance to each tenant space. It also says that you have to have an individual branch circuit for the sign or outline lighting outlet, and that branch circuit has to be rated a minimum of 20 amps. So a 15 amp circuit won't work, it won't be code compliant. As far as voltage goes, I guess that's your choice, right? The installer's choice. The 600.5A doesn't tell us 120 volts or 240 volts or 277 volts or 480, whatever you want it to be, I suppose. All right. Maybe someday we'll get that information, but right now the code does not say which voltage is required there, but it does say 20 amps minimum. Let's give you a visual example of type of building that would have these occupancies that require this particular circuit for this sign outlet. All right, here's a strip mall, for example, right? We have the Dollar Tree and all these other stores. There's about eight stores in the strip mall. And every one of these stores has pedestrian access, right? The pedestrians can come from the parking lot or the street or the sidewalk and walk right into the store. And so at each one of these entrances to each store or each commercial space, there has to be a branch circuit supplying an outlet for the sign or an outline lighting system. All right, we need to know some definitions too, like what is a sign and what is an outline lighting system. Let's take a look at Article 100, definition of electric sign. And that says a fixed, stationary, or portable, self-contained, electrically operated, electrically illuminated utilization equipment with words or symbols used to convey information or attract attention. That's a sign, an electric sign, right? And the product standard for that is UL 48. And then if you wanted to look this up in the guide information, that would be under product category UXYT, right? So UL 48 and product category UXYT for some more information about electric signs. And then let's take a look at some signs. Here's another one, Nashville Music. That's a good example of what appears to be a neon sign. Could be LED, hard to tell from here. The lobster claw sign right there, that could be lit up with fluorescent lights or maybe LEDs. Not really sure. Doesn't matter. The requirements don't really change. Regardless of what is providing the illumination, the requirement's the same. 1200 volt amps minimum for this branch circuit calculation. Here's another one, right? And you can see the entrance to this space is directly below the sign. And remember, the 1200 volt amps minimum, that's, that would be applicable certainly if you don't have the VA rating of the sign, right? But if you do have the VA rating for the sign and it's greater than 1200 volt amps, then you should absolutely use that information. For example, if the VA rating for this sign was 3600 volt amps, then we should absolutely use that as the load calculation versus the 1200 volt amps minimum. Here's the general store sign. And again, this is directly above the entrance to this commercial space, right? So that's the required branch circuit, and we have the lighting outlet there, or the sign outlet, excuse me. Now here's a freestanding sign. Again, this is just an example of another type of sign, right? It's not mounted directly above the entrance. It's out in a parking lot somewhere, but it's still a sign. And I want to focus on the labeling. It's on the very bottom. If you look close, on the very bottom of the sign, you can see where the label is and the UL mark. I'm going to zoom in on that. There you go. Right, so we have the amperage and the voltage there, and we also have the label from UL there. If we zoom in on that, you can see that that piece of equipment is listed as an electric sign. Okay, there's another definition we need to be clear with. It's outline lighting. What is an outline lighting system? By definition, it's an arrangement of incandescent lamps or electric discharge lighting or some other electric light source which outline or calls attention to the shape of a building or the decoration of a window or other certain features. So in this graphic, you'll see an example of both a sign and the outline lighting system, right? The sign, the green arrow, is showing you the Eastgate Liquors, right? That is the sign. And then the outline lighting, the yellow arrow is pointing to the white outline, right? I'm not sure if that's neon or LED, but in any case, it is outline lighting. In case you didn't know what outline lighting was, that's a good example there. All right, and as far as the branch circuit calculation goes, again, 1200 volt amps minimum for every one of these required sign outlets. So this Olympia Sports sign. If the actual rating of the sign is greater than 1200 volt amps, absolutely use that. If it's 2400 volt amps, use that. Don't use the 1200 volt amps. Harry's Bar. If that sign is greater than 1200 volt amps, then use that information. A good example where you might be able to use the 1200 volt amps is where you might not know what the actual volt amp rating is for the sign. For example, like that strip mall at the very beginning that I showed you there. When we are sizing the service, for example, we have to factor in that every one of those stores is going to need one of these branch circuits, and every one of those branch circuits needs a load calculation. And sometimes the tenant hasn't moved in yet, right? So we don't really know, what type of sign it's going to be. We don't know what it's going to be, right? Because nobody's moved in. But we still have to do the load calculation. So if we don't have the actual information for the sign because no tenant has moved in yet, but we have to do a load calculation, well, then we'll use the 1200 volt amps minimum as specified in the code. But if we know that the sign is going to be more than 1200 volt amps, then we should absolutely use that information instead of the 1200 volt amps minimum. Here's an example of two different types of outline lighting. You'll see the incandescent lighting along the roof line there of this restaurant. And then you'll also see the red outline lighting, right? And I'm not sure if that red outline lighting is neon or LED. I can't really be sure from here. And I don't remember. I took the picture, but I can't remember what type of light it was, to be honest with you. But in any case, it's a type of outline lighting. Here's another example. This is neon outline lighting. And you can see this one has the transformer supplying power to the neon tubes, and then the transformer is plugged into a receptacle on the ceiling there. Really good example of outline lighting, right? It's just outlining the wall space. Not really a sign, but it's outline lighting. So every one of those needs 1200 volt amps. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, but the product standard for outline lighting is the same as for sign. Same UL number. What I say it was UL 48, I think. Same product standard. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, or if you have suggestions on a video you would like me to talk about or something you'd like me to explain, drop me a line, russ@russleblanc.net, or if you go to my website, russleblanc.net, there's a contact page there, and you can contact me that way. I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.